Hey, whoa, I like your channel. What advice do you have for a new player trying to get into the game as cheaply as possible? What books do I need? Okay, I see this question a lot. I see this constantly. Normally my show is for like intermediate advanced players, but let's do some new player stuff. It's a second edition. And so with second editions come an influx of new players, and we are a welcoming community after all. So yeah, here's my advice for new players or people considering getting into the game. First of all, watch the game being played a few times, not just on YouTube, I mean in real life. Ideally at your local game store, by your friends. The community is what makes this game great. And the best way to get into the game is either by getting pulled in by your friends who already play, or everyone just sort of approaching the game at the same time. Before you do anything else, buy the core book, read the whole thing. This will give you an idea about what Age of Sigmar even is, the history of it, the landscape of it, what the realms are, what all the races are, what all the armies are, what they do, the personality of it. I mean, it's got some rules in there too. The rules are free, as you know, online, the 18 pages of, but really the core book is going to immerse you into the world of Age of Sigmar, and it, I think, really should not be skipped. It'll save a lot of questions and misconceptions you have moving forward. I mean, it's been 3 years and people are still asking if Stormcast are empty suits of armor filled with lightning. Like, if people just read the core book, like... Anyway, moving on, what advice do you have for a new player trying to get into the game as cheaply as possible? Well, now this question can mean one of two things. If it actually means you're trying to get into the game as cheaply as possible, well, that's easy. You can do it. Now, if by I'm trying to get into the game as cheaply as possible, you actually meant, how can I rush to playing the game at 1 or 2K army size as soon as possible while also being a cheapskate, then get out. Like, I'm not being mean, I'm giving you honesty. You've chosen wrong. You've made a bad move. This game is famous for how expensive it is, right? And that's true. In the film industry, we have this idea of the production triangle. You can make it good, you can make it fast, and you can make it cheap. But you only get to pick two. And this applies very well to Age of Sigmar armies when getting into the game. If you want a good army, and you want it real quick, well then it's going to be very expensive. There's no other way around it. You gotta buy somebody's whole army, or at least huge parts of it, and the upfront cost is massive. If you want to very quickly acquire a cheap army, well then it's going to be trash. It's going to look like garbage, and probably not even include all the units you want, with the right options, or in a decent color scheme, or really anything. And if you want a good army for cheap, well then it is going to be a gradual process. It's going to take you 6 months. This third option, by the way, is the intended Warhammer experience. The ideal one, I would say. The game is designed as a gradual hobbying experience. You're building, you're customizing, you're painting, you're reading books, you're talking about list building with your friends. Time spent playing the game is closing in on 1% and 99% not playing the game. You don't want to rush to the 1%. But here's my advice. Do a bunch of research to make sure the dudes you think look the coolest have a playstyle that fits your personality. This is an important step. Talk to a bunch of people. Do some research online, watch them getting played. Talk to people or find them on forums that like play the army competitively and really get a feel for how the thing plays. If your playstyle is run up and smash, you're going to want to run up and smash army. If your playstyle is control, that has a lot of options, and it can turn on its heels suddenly when the time is right to strike, you're going to want that type of army. After you've chosen an army, and a lot of people spend a long time on this step, because it's a high barrier of entry, you don't want to make a mistake, and I'm sympathetic to that. But we'll assume you've chosen, right? After that, you get an initial hobby investment of hardware store clippers, a hobby knife, Gorilla Glue, and the GW plastic glue. Get 3 rattle can primers, 1 black, 1 gray, 1 white. eBay a Vallejo 8-pack paint set for $20. 3 tiny craft store brushes, and 2 GW watches. I recommend Null Oil and then 1 of a reasonable color for your army. Buy 1 box of models secondhand every month. Watch a bunch of YouTube painting guides from official GW ones by Duncan to Vince Venturella's hobby cheating videos, and like there's a million others. Start the long but satisfying journey of hobby discovery and improvement, and in 1 year you will have a proper army. And you diluted the cost of this investment over the course of an entire year, and so it wasn't so bad. And you got the full enjoyment out of the hobby experience, improving, learning how to paint, getting better. Now, as you get squads and units and heroes and stuff, like, you can play some of their introductory style sub-games they have, like Skirmish for, you know, only having a few models, or like 500-point games. But for the most part, this is a road to the way everyone plays, which is pretty much 2K matched. If tactical and strategic contests against roughly balanced opposing forces isn't your bag, well, there's 2 other ways to play, no big deal. If your local community is one of the exceptions that plays 1K, 1.5K, open or narrative, whatever, like, if you like it, do it. As with so much about this hobby, it's really about the community you're in. Enjoy.